Hello, and welcome to Played Once, a board gaming podcast where we only...
Jen.
What? Why would you interrupt me? That was perfect. That's a perfect intro, right?
No.
Why?
This is the YouTube channel, Jan.
Oh, that's right. If you want to listen to more shows like this, be sure to visit our podcast. But today, here on the channel, we're doing a Played It Once that is inspired by that podcast. And today we are covering Praga Caput Regni by Delicious Game, published by Rio Grande Games and designed by Vladimir, I believe I'm pronouncing this correctly. Please, feel free to say no. Vladimir Sushi. Sushi. Like the one I had yesterday, right? Yeah, sushi.
Close, but no cigar, Jan. Nice try.
So
Vladimir Sushi.
So in Played It Once, what we do is that we'll give you a little bit of what the game is, an overview, then we'll go into the context in which we played, and then we're going to go into overall opinions. So with that said, William, what is Praga Caput Regni?
Praga Caput Regni is a game where you are... Wow. Okay.
You're good.
I didn't want to do that part. I knew it'd be tough.
Woof.
What is it about?
Praga Caput Regni is a game where you are... basically, the city of Prague has already been built, but King Charles II of the Czech Empire is wanting to develop it a little bit more. So we are going to use various resources and things to build the cathedral. We are going to build the Hunger Wall and other various buildings and towns. And
the Charles Bridge.
The Charles Bridge.
The Charles Bridge.
I did almost forget Charles Bridge.
Essential.
It is essential because here's the great thing. All of these places are actual places in Prague. And they still exist even today and are some of the most beautiful places to visit in Prague and potentially in all of Europe. I haven't been there quite yet. Dan, you've been to Prague?
I've been to Prague in 2008. I was backpacking around Europe by myself and spent a few days in Prague. I had a blast.
I've been to Prague, but I don't remember anything because Prague has a lot of alcohol there. But Dan,
I can vouch for that.
Tell me a little bit about how the game actually plays. Like, what genre of game is this? What are we expecting?
It's I would say a medium to heavy Euro game, maybe a heavy Euro game. Basic action selection mechanisms. You've got this wheel here. There's several actions on it. You pick your action, you do your action, and then you put it back on the wheel, and the wheel spins. And one of the things that I liked about it actually was the fact that the actions are relatively quick. They're relatively simple. The game moves along at a good clip. And then, as with a lot of heavy Euro games, there's several paths to victory. You're sort of building a point salad while you're playing, as well as end game scoring conditions. So there's a lot of options and various paths you can take to compete.
So basically what you're doing in the game, as Dan just said, is victory points, right? And you'll gain victory points by multiple different routes. You'll either do that by getting multipliers on your own personal player board. You will do that by investing in different city building elements that you can do within game. You'll do that by also developing your own personal castle. That it works almost like a little tableau in a sense, which you'll have to take different tiles and connect them to that main player board in order to capitalize and keep going up different tracks on different areas of the board, like other normal Euros. And the way that a turn would work is that in this action wheel, you're going to have little tiles, and each of those tiles represent an action. But depending on where that tile is on this board, you're also going to get a bonus. What's interesting about this is...
potentially pay a penalty.
Exactly. So the farther ahead that a tile is, it'll be in an area where you get a victory point bonus. But the farther back you start going, you might get penalties or you might not get anything at all. It is always up to the players to decide what element seems the best for them. But ultimately, that decision becomes harder and harder as the game goes along because elements or resources in this game are precious. So now that we have a base understanding of the game, how was, the context? How was this game to learn? What did we think about it? And I'll leave it up to our teacher to go over that.
Tell us, how easy was it to teach?
So it's like many complex Euro games, you trip over yourself a lot, at least I do, trying to teach it, because there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of icons. There's, as I said, there's several different actions, several different paths of victory, several different ways to score points. But once you get through all those things, a couple of turns in, and as I said, turns go pretty quick, and within a couple of turns, it all clicks into place. There's there's gold, there's building materials, there's actual buildings that you build in the village. You can move along the King's Road. You can build on your little castle, as Jan mentioned earlier, and it's basic variations on those things. And there's ways that those different paths all interconnect and they tangle up together. They influence each other. They play off of each other. And while it sounds very complex, it's actually kind of relatively simple in the actual execution of it, which is one of the things, again, that I really liked about it. That you know, they're simple things, but at the same time they weave together in a way that's complex enough that it keeps it interesting, and it also is just complex enough that it kind of combats its own proneness to AP, to analysis paralysis, wherein if you try to start counting things up too much, you'll kill yourself. You know?
So you've actually played this once before you played it with us. Then we played in a 3-player game, right? Dan was our teacher. Dan did an excellent job. Such a good job that he won the game.
So
and based on
was it really an excellent job?
Exactly, right? Because if he would have done such a great job teaching it, like really, one of us would have won.
Well, the person that taught me beat me the first time, so...
Oh, so
maybe that's just part of
So you got it taught wrong, and then you taught it wrong to us. Okay, great. So we're just continuing the cycle. This is horrible. But seriously. So at least for me, I thought this was actually pretty easy to get into. Once you start understanding the iconography on these, 6 main actions, everything in the game starts being a little bit more simple because it is super
and the iconography I thought was really good. Like it's pretty clear and consistent. I thought it was good. It helps.
Yeah, just within the middle of maybe the second round, it started clicking almost immediately. And some of the great things of all of these of the game.
Why are we hiding your pretty face, Will?
I don't really know. It just happened that way. One of the great things about the game for me was kind of the tactile nature of the game. There are lots of dials to move, lots of things to interact with. These boards are dual layered, which is always nice because there are a bunch of cubes that have to go on them. Your player personal tableau area is very colorful. The colors are great.
Not to mention the little spot where you put a cube in here, and every time it goes around, it falls into the little hole. And tells you to move along the time track.
So let's go ahead and jump into like the formal discussion about like our general impressions, right? So I think this is such an excellent segue into that.
It is.
And the wheels, because if there's anything that Mr. Sushi does besides makes me hungry every time I think about his name, is that he brings innovation into every single design that he brings out into the world.
Yes.
You know, Underwater Cities was very similar to Terraforming Mars, but the way that you get that player board and the tactile nature of it, it feels like you're getting engaged with the components and the theme and the thematics that much more. And in this one, the way that wheel works, it almost felt like we were actually constructing something, building something together. Right. And the different interconnected mechanical elements in this board that Dan was explaining felt like there was a lot more intent into the design than just a little flashy, gimmicky mechanic. No, it felt pretty essential and critical for the way that the game worked, and also giving me that moment of, that's slice sushi. So sneaky.
And it doesn't, building on that, it doesn't feel random either. If you think about the places where there's a physical interaction between the bits that spin and the little blocks that you place in here, similarly on the boards, the first time you hit 6 gold, for example, there's a little block here and you physically hit it. It's the kind of thing where if it just said that in a rule book, hey, the first time you hit 6 gold, you get a little library book.
Yep.
But it's the kind of thing that you would forget.
Yeah,
and they force you to remember because you physically have to remove a piece.
And it's great
to do it.
Because when you hit it, you're just like, oh, there's something, I can't go any further. Oh no, I get something. That's even better. It's not blocking you.
It feels like a celebration, right?
Yeah.
It feels like a milestone.
Yeah.
It's so interesting the way that it works out. And then going into the mechanics, so in terms of the actual game, because yes, we love the mechanical elements and how those kind of play a critical role in the narration or the game arc, right? But the meat of this, the Euro, how was that for you?
The action selection in this game is absolutely amazing. You can't really tell from the board that we have it as right now, but there are tiles that fit into each one of these sections. Not every section along, but enough so that players can pick them up.
Yep.
And just the selection of those and just kind of what you want to do in order to, do I get something free? Do I pay for something because I want to do it faster before anybody else can? Or is it going to come around here so I can get points? That is so very innovative. Most like action selection, you're going to put a tile down and that's your action, or you're going to put a worker down in terms of worker placement, that sort of thing. This kind of action selection is absolutely amazing because it just, not only does it age it to make it increase the agency in which you want to select these actions, but we were finding, especially in the early game, none of the actions really got into the blue section because the three of us were like, you're not getting any points, I'm going to do this now. Later on, they did start sliding over here when we kind of solidified into the engine that we were building, what we found important, what wasn't important. And even when it got around to there, like when it got all the way up to 5 points and there was one over here for 5 points, we were like, I don't really want that. I got to work on something else. Another part with this action selection is when you take an action, you always get a bonus action, which is in the inner section of the wheel, which is always something you're going to want to consider too. Something that may not be so great on its own, you get that bonus, oh, it might be good. For example, if I take this, I can pay a rock to get an egg. Now, why would I want an egg? Well, that's a fun thing that adds to the theme of this
Hundreds
game.
of little elements in the game, hundreds of them. And so, and Dan, like out of the games that you've played, right? Has there been a consistent or a substantial evolution? Like, what have you felt like? If you liked it at all, what have you really learned to love about it?
So the things that I loved, a couple of things I already mentioned, right? The tempo. I'm the type of player, I don't like sitting around waiting for everybody else to take a turn for 10 minutes at a time. And this moves at a...
No, the person that takes a long time is not here. Okay, no. So I'm not going to say any names, but it starts with a quack. I'm just saying.
I was right. I was saying there are two people at this table who hate people waiting for people to play their turns. That's them too.
Yeah.
We're impatient.
Patience is not one of my virtues. So
that's why I'm here.
I really like the tempo. You know, the turns are short, so it moves along. And in this day and age where we're like wired for little micro rewards and everything, it's a game full of every turn. There's the action you're taking. There's the little bonus action. You know, again, going back to like the tangible bits, you get to move things around. There's just... Every turn is like just a bunch of fun little things, and that in itself, the game in itself, is kind of its own reward that way.
Yeah.
But then when you to go a step further, like I had mentioned before, despite how complex it seems, it's also kind of simple. I mean, you're in reality building on really two tableaus.
Yeah.
I mean, you're building out two tableaus, and yet somehow it doesn't feel that complicated. Once you're in the game and playing, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So for me, I think, and I know this is super redundant because we went through this conversation before, but I, for the life of me, cannot figure out how to say this in an intellectual manner. So I will say the redundant thing. To me, this game comes down to... I find it because I know why you're going to... Increasing returns. So the concept of diminishing returns, right? This game is the complete opposite. The more that you delay, the more that you take your time to savor the situation or that you look for timing, things are going to get juicier, and juicier. And that does not only apply to the way that the action selection system works out, but also the way that we progress as players throughout the game. Everybody starts finding out their little thing and start developing it and growing it. Do you invest in a technology that nobody else has right now and you start really going hard for that one action? Oh, but you going for that one action means that you might have to take an action that has a negative effect. So how do you counteract that? Okay, then basically you start building upon the things that bring you joy in this game, right? Like what you were saying. Right. And I think that's showcased everywhere. Everything is about escalation and getting stronger and becoming better and better at what you're doing. And I feel that, I don't know, not every Euro does that for me. No. Like some Euros just have the puzzle. And the puzzle is good. And you just figure out how to do the puzzle the best way. But in Praga Caput Regni, it feels like I'm building my puzzle in a way, right? Like I'm figuring out where my mortar goes, like which type of egg yolk I want in that mortar and stuff like that, right?
we should explain why eggs are in the game in the first place. This could be our foul moment.
Oh God, this isn't the actual podcast.
Did you know that eggs were actually used as mortar in the period of the 15th century when this is...
Why does Jesse have to be in every video when he's not even here? I don't, oh.
Did you miss the ducks on the front of the box, Jan? There's ducks right here.
I don't, just please put it away. Okay, and then the last thing I'll say, because we're reaching the point where we need to ask that critical question, is that I also love the 3D element of the game and how they helped with how everything went. With that said, I do think that depending on certain seating arrangements, there could be a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
But you can be smart about it and just play the game to the side of the board instead. Or against the length of the board.
It is definitely a vertical board rather than a horizontal board. For our play, I was behind both the cathedral and the hunger wall, so I couldn't really see that when I wanted to leap up spaces, there were costs I needed to pay. But there are just like a well-designed game. You don't have to play with these. You can play with a flat board where everything is visually represented very well as well.
Oh. And the super most important thing, or one of the most important things, is that this being a straight-to-retail Euro, it packs everything you need for the entire lifespan of that game because it includes the modules, it includes the modularity, so the game can grow with you as you go along.
It includes little wooden eggs.
Just like wingspan.
Just super important.
Number one thing.
How are the mouthfeel on those eggs?
I had some for breakfast this morning. Fantastic. I'm still full. So, gentlemen, the most important question, and again, tying back to the podcast because it's also the most important question, did you enjoy it? And would you play it again? Dan, what did you think?
Obviously, I would play it again. I mean, I've been gushing over it. After 2 plays, I love it. I liked it better the second time than I did the first time. First time, there were a couple of aspects of the game that I was afraid, is this a little clunky? Is this gonna annoy me in future plays? And it didn't. In future plays, I actually found it better because I kind of got my head around it, and it made it better. So, for example, the golden windows that allow you to take a second action. The first time through, it almost felt like it slowed the game down a little. Second time through, for me at least, the second time through, I could anticipate a little bit more. And while only adding maybe a minute and a half to 2 minutes to my turn, it allowed me to set up a couple of awesome chain reactions.
Just kind of cascaded.
A couple of huge turns that were really cool and very satisfying.
You were a badass in this game,
and
unfortunately.
That was one of the specific things you mentioned at the beginning of this play. Was just like, I don't know how I feel about the golden windows. So
second play, I definitely liked him, and I will absolutely play it again. In fact, I'm already planning my next Tabletop Tipples article around it. Go to quackalope.com, you can find those.
People are going to think this is an excuse for cross-promotion across all our channels. It's not.
But seriously, I plan on pairing this with Slivovitz, and I'm going to recount my own tale of drinking Slivovitz in Prague several years ago. It was fun. I will definitely be playing this again. I'm glad I have 2 friends who have bought it.
What about you, Will?
Well, he's probably going to have a third friend who has bought it because this game was amazing. My experience with Vladimir Sushi comes through his games Last Will and the Prodigals Club. Both of those games, I love Victorian England, and that theme ties in to those games wonderfully. The same is true with Praga Caput Regni. The theme comes through. You feel like you're building this city, this beautiful city. And if you ever have a chance to go to Prague, it is recommended. It's on my list. It's a wonderful city to visit for many different reasons. And the game definitely invests you into that building of that city. You feel the mechanics of the turning of the wheel, not only just the game mechanics, but the physical mechanics of turning your wheels, moving your cubes. It really does give you that sense of feeling that you're building something.
Yep.
And you do get to build something, because before you play the game, you have to build 3D models, which is a lot of fun. The toy factor is high on this game, which is good. It's not always good in every Euro, but it works for this one. Mm-hmm. So, yes. Did I enjoy it? Yes. Would I play it again? Yes. I need to get a copy from Labyrinth Game Store in Washington, D.C.
Oh my God!
The cross promotions are just getting
the cross promotion is high.
Oh, Lord. I don't think this was what Jesse had in mind when he asked us to do a video.
Well, he should have been.
Say,
he should have been here.
I will keep my last opinions about this game as short as I can, but I do need to gush a little bit because I was also a gigantic fan of what Praga Caput Regni has done. I would be so brazen as to say that I'm pretty sure that this is probably one of the best Euros that came out in 2020.
It is high on the list of games of 2020.
I would be genuinely surprised if there's over 5 or 9 games that top this one last year, because this is such a gem. The weight of each decision in this are major. Like, every choice that you make in this game will 100% lead to that victory. But at the same time, every decision feels manageable. It doesn't feel like it's weighing on your shoulders, right? Like other Euros where, what is it? Like, I feel like Feast for Odin is the type of game where you start making wrong choices at the beginning of the game and you're out. You're out of that game. And and that type of critical paths are very apparent. And when you see that early on in a game, you're out. And it doesn't feel well. But here, even though there's a lot of importance to what you're doing and how you're doing it, it just feels nice because of that mechanical tie-in, right?
It feels like you always have good options available.
Exactly.
You always have good options available.
And that is thanks to the way... Yes, and that is the way, thanks to that action wheel, that every single action is always available to you. You're just going to have to pay a little bit more.
Right. Yep.
But the option is there. And that level of flexibility in a Euro of this style adds so much to the decision-making here. Because the world is your oyster. You can make your bridge as high as you want.
You never feel like you're backed into a corner.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. And I don't know, everything about it felt, even though there's 100,000 moving pieces like an actual construction site, it felt streamlined. It felt meaty in the best way possible.
Yes.
And it felt like it had so much depth that I still haven't even gotten the opportunity to explore. It's just like I just put the foundations and built the overall structure around my bridge before I actually start constructing it. I've only made it to the bottom level of that space before I build my structure and actually connect all of the thoughts and processes that this requires to perfect.
We have only cracked the shell of the egg of this game.
That's a better one. Mine was confusing. That one, that's it. So if you haven't understood yet, we are all, so far, absolute fans of Praga Caput Regni.
Yeah,
excellent job to Vladimir Sushi and Delicious Games and Rio Grande Games for publishing this title. I absolutely love it. If you want to see this game on the channel, send us a few comments down there. Let us know. And speaking of, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, go to our Facebook, go to our website, quackalope.com, go to our podcast and listen to some shows. All these things, but regardless of what you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out or stay in for a little bit longer.
Just a little bit.
And play some games. We'll see you guys next time.
So, Jan, when is this coming to Quackalope?